Hi, my name is Brandon Long, and the purpose of this video is to break down the shooting mechanic in the top-down shooter Synthetik. In Synthetik, the player shoots in the direction of the cursor. The damage and accuracy of the player are dependent on where the player is aiming and whether they are standing still or moving. If the player is standing still, the accuracy is increased, and the player will shoot in the desired direction more consistently. While standing still, the player can more accurately shoot at or above the desired target. Here you can see that if we aim at or in front of the object, the bullet will hit the object. We can also aim just past the object to shoot above the object and not hit the object that the bullet will travel across. While standing still, if we aim at the enemy's head, we have an increased chance to land a headshot, which will modify the damage with a critical hit. If we are aiming just before or on the enemy's body, they will receive normal damage and will decrease with a decreased chance of receiving a critical hit. In contrast to standing still, if the player is moving while shooting, we can see that the aiming reticle changes appearance. The reticle is replaced with a circle that varies in size based on the player's movement. When the player shoots while moving, the accuracy of the shots is decreased substantially. Any shots made while moving will have a decreased likelihood of reaching its mark. The chance of a damage modifier is also decreased while the player is moving, meaning that there will be a lower probability of landing a headshot or a critical hit. There are both advantages and disadvantages to either aiming states. These advantages are dependent on the situation the player is in and how many enemies the player has engaged. Here we can see the player is facing more than one enemy. Standing still is not a viable option, and therefore he needs to move around to avoid their attacks. When the player is standing still to shoot more accurately, they are open to being easily targeted by the enemy and will therefore be at risk of taking more damage. If the player is facing more than one enemy, this can be a disadvantage. While moving, however, the player has less accuracy but is less likely to take consistent damage from the enemy. Whether accuracy or movement is more important, the player will need to decide on their approach based on the varying scenarios that they come across in Synthetik. In comparison to the shooting mechanic of Synthetik, games such as Diablo 3 also have similar shooting mechanics. In Diablo 3, the player attacks in the direction of the cursor position, much like in Synthetik. However, accuracy does not play a part in the mechanic. The attack or shooting mechanic in Diablo 3 utilizes a roll of the dice or RNG system to dictate the damage the enemy receives and its modifiers. The player can attack in the direction of the cursor at the same consistency whether they are standing still or moving. Each time an enemy is hit by a projectile or an attack, the damage they receive is based on a roll of the dice calculated by the system and any modifiers derived from the player's stats and or gear. While the aiming system in Diablo 3 is more simplified, the calculation for damage is randomized, and therefore the accuracy of the player is less important in comparison to the shooting system in Synthetik.